You know that feeling when you click on a shiny product photo, imagine it fitting perfectly into your rig, and then once it's in your hands realize it's more of a novelty than a workhorse? I've been there a lot, especially with rack mount gear that promises all-in-one convenience but ends up being a compromise you didn't sign up for. That's why I'm digging into the TF-Rack 40-channel rack mount digital mixer today, because I want to save you from buying something that looks great on the page but falls short when the lights go down and the show has to run. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's set the scene. You're running a small to medium live sound system, maybe a house band gig, a church worship setup, or a broadcast booth that needs a compact mixing hub. Space is at a premium. You already have a rack full of power supplies, a wireless router, and a couple of outboard effects. You need a mixer that can handle a decent number of inputs: vocals, drums, keyboards, maybe a few DI boxes without adding another tower to your stage plot. The TF-Rack promises exactly that, a 40-channel digital mix, all inside a single 19-inch rack unit. It's a very specific niche, and the value in that niche comes from how well the unit integrates into a workflow that already lives in a rack. Who should actually consider this unit? If you already have a rack mount rack, and you've built your signal chain around standard inch and XLR connectors, the TF-Rack is a logical next step. Small venue sound engineers who need to juggle a lot of inputs but don't want to carry a bulky analog console will find the channel count useful. It also makes sense for install-type integrators who need a digital mixer that can sit alongside network switches and power conditioners, and who prefer to control everything from a single remote surface or via a laptop. On the flip side, if you're a solo musician who only needs a handful of inputs, or you're a DJ who relies on a 2-channel mixer, you're probably overpaying for channel headroom you'll never use. Likewise, anyone who expects plug-and-play simplicity without any learning curve should think twice. Digital mixers of this size come with a menu system that takes a few sessions to master. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths. The first thing that impressed me during a Hanson session was the density of the channel layout. 40 channels are squeezed onto a slate of faders that, while not motorized, feel solid enough to hold a set position during a run. The layout mirrors larger TF series consoles, which means if you ever graduate to a full-size TF console, the workflow transfer is almost seamless. The built-in DSP routing is fairly robust. You can assign any input to any bus, create pre-fader auxes, and set up a couple of monitor mixes without reaching for external gear. That saves a lot of rack space because you can eliminate a separate monitor matrix. Another real-world benefit is the network capability. The TF-Rack includes Ethernet connectivity that lets you control the mix from a laptop or tablet using the TF series software. In a small venue, I was able to pull up the mixer on my iPad, tweak EQ on a vocal channel, and adjust the main LR balance without ever stepping foot in front of the rack. That kind of remote flexibility is a genuine time saver when you have a tech crew moving between stage and mixing area. The mixer also supports standard AES/EBU and S/PDIF digital outputs, so you can send a clean digital signal to your front of house DAW for recording or to a multi-channel speaker system. On the downside, there are a few hidden trade-offs you have to accept. Because the unit is packed into a rack chassis, the front panel faders are shorter than those you'd find on a full-size console. That's fine for steady-state mixing, but if you need rapid, dramatic fader moves, think a live rock band with sudden dynamic shifts, those short throws can feel limiting. The unit does not have motorized faders, which means no automatic scene recall. You can store scenes in the internal memory, but you'll still have to manually lift each fader to the saved position. In a setting where you need a quick scene change, that manual step can be a bottleneck. Another practical weakness is the lack of built-in effects processing. Many mid-range digital mixers nowadays bundle reverbs, delays, and compressors as part of the DSP engine, letting you shape vocals and instruments without external plugins. The TF-Rack leaves that to external gear or a connected computer, which adds an extra piece of equipment to your rack if you need those tools. This isn't a deal breaker if you already run a separate effects rack, but it does mean the TF-Rack isn't a true all-in-one in the sense of eliminating any outboard components. Power consumption is also worth mentioning. The unit draws a modest amount of current, but because it sits in a rack with other gear, you need to ensure your power distribution is sufficient. I ran into a